Signs of the Southland, August 15th, Monday. It is wow, it's almost nighttime in Atlanta. It's been a very long day, but we are about to close it out with our annual volleyball preview. We'll get to that in a minute, but Mr. Grant, I hear that there is some news we want to cover before we get there.
Yes. Is this on? I believe you had a joke that you have told us like 4 times. Would you like to tell the joke? I can't take this away from you.
Buddy. Let me tell you. Let me set this up for you. Georgia Tech Volleyball has released its non-conference schedule for 22.
Volleyball, women's basketball.
Georgia Tech women's basketball. Excuse me. We're talking about volleyball later. Women's basketball has released its non-conference schedule for 22-23. And let me tell you, Mr. Purdy and Mr. Grant, it is truly a non-con schedule, as it does not feature the return game to the University of Connecticut. It features Georgia State, Kennesaw State, Auburn, Georgia, a Gulf Coast Invitational. I believe that's November 25th through 27th. The ACC Big Ten Challenge at Michigan State, at Belmont, home versus CMU, and then home versus Furman. I believe most of those dates were set before. We've gone over this before, but it was finalized last week. So we did want to share the rest of the schedule and also the very bad dad joke and pun that came along with it. Mr. Purdy, give us the last news update for the week.
Yes, this afternoon, the 2025 and 2026 college football playoff national championship game locations were revealed. 2025, or at least reportedly that what they will eventually be proclaimed to be. The CFP did not actually release this info quite yet. But Atlanta will be getting the game back in 2025, which is for now the last contracted year of the CFP. And then 2026 will be back in Miami, assuming the CFP still is the championship format of choice by then.
Technically, I think it's the 25 season, so that's why they announced Miami, because 26 national title game is the 25 season. But yeah, you're on the money there.
Yeah.
So I was going to say that'd be pretty awkward if there was, competing hosts sites or
it's funny that you bring that up, because that's basically what happened to the 2025 game, because for some reason the college football playoff committee didn't realize that the Consumer Electronics Show is in Vegas at the exact same time that they wanted to do the national championship game. So you have a bunch of nerds that are booking hotels already in and I say nerds with love. There are a bunch of nerds that are booking hotels for CES already, probably in 2025. And so they just had to move it. They couldn't put it in Vegas. Yeah.
That's the biggest trade show in the world. So I mean,
it's gotten smaller post-pandemic, but yes, I agree.
Really? Yeah. Well, I mean, to do the monthly left turn of this podcast into aviation, it's certainly an interesting week to look at schedules, because those are all over the place. But that's a time for another podcast, not with what we've got going on here today.
Yes, what we got going on today is a 3-set match in honor of our volleyball preview. So let's tip it off for set 1. Let's start with the season review of 2021. How far did Georgia Tech volleyball get? How far didn't they get, right? That's really the question here. All they didn't get in 2021.
Imagine asking that of a Georgia Tech team, how far you didn't get.
The answer for that one is longer for some than it is for others. But to actually get to the point, Georgia Tech volleyball made it to the Elite Eight. They played the University of Louisville in their Elite Eight matchup and lost in 3-1. Louisville advanced to the Final Four. They lost to Nebraska, the eventual national champions. This is the farthest that Georgia Tech,
Wisconsin
was the national champions.
The other red team with the single letter logo.
They look the exact same. They
From the
look the
Big
exact
Ten.
same. I'm not paid to be accurate on this podcast. I'm just paid to make some hot takes.
And I gotta say, we went from having one ACC team qualify for the Final Four ever in the history of the conference to two in the same year, and tantalizingly close to an All ACC championship in what would have been Pitt versus Louisville 3. So definitely,
I think we would have had to
leans
pay
all
some
wanting
money to
more,
watch that. I like,
Yeah.
not to
It-
make this an ACC volleyball podcast, but man, that Pitt Louisville 3 would have been a banger. And not to say that the national championship game last year wasn't. That was an
It was still
amazing
a great
match.
game. Yeah, that was great.
It was an amazing match, and if you have, it's probably on YouTube or it's probably on ESPN replays. Go back and watch it. But we're not here to talk about Nebraska and Wisconsin. We're here to talk about Georgia Tech. So we will nip that tangent in the bud. Georgia Tech finished 26-6. They finished 9th in the Husker Geek Viper rankings. That is an advanced ranking system, much along the lines of SP Plus for football. They outperformed their Pythagorean projection based on their points scored. They were projected to go 23-9, so they tacked on 3 more wins. There's something interesting that we picked up when we were going through their set records before we started recording. In 3-set games, in games that went 3 sets, Tech went 16-2. 4-set games, they went 9-3, and then in 5-set games, they went 1-1. And Jake, you brought up a really good point. It's interesting to see how good they were, especially when they played so few games and so few sets, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's it just shows how efficiently that they were winning, right? So you're seeing those 3-set games. That means there were 16 sweeps in I guess that's, what is it, 32 games. That's a pretty good margin there. And then among those other 16, you had the 6 losses and 10 wins of longer than 3 sets. But not to say it's not surprising that they were very good, because it wasn't. They were very good regardless of how long they played, but they kept the other team off the floor, and really, I think it shows that that's kind of a stat that belies their transition from a really good team to a really great team, in that, they weren't letting teams hang around, taking them in 5, taking them in 4. So definitely an interesting thing to see there. And maybe, we take a look after this season and see how that number looks and compare it to the past couple of years.
Yeah, just to keep the ball rolling here, Georgia Tech had 2 Viper second team All-Americans, Julia Bergman and Mariana Brambilla. Brambilla even got a nice little banner in O'Keefe, which Jacques saw on his little visit to the Gold and White game. You can check that article and that recap out on FromTheRumbleSeat.com after, or maybe even during, listening to this podcast. I think the bottom line, gentlemen, here is that this was, I think, unequivocally the best season in program history. Is that fair to say, Mr. Grant?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to follow it up with Bergman is probably going to get that banner pending the finish of her actual career on the flats. I would hate to see them have to print off another banner, because
another banner to put up in O'Keefe. Oh no.
And that's a train I have been on for a long time, and it was really great to see them one, hang the NIVC banner after a couple of years, and then really replace the Sweet 16, Elite 8 type stuff that they had back when all the banners were literally yellow and blue in there. So definitely O'Keefe is looking a little bit more on brand, and the 3 of us love to talk brand. So
They look good. They're the 2021 digits are up now in their appropriate locations as well, which is good. And Brambia's is backlit. They put it over the one spot where there's going to O'Keefe. So I thought there was a light fixture on it. I'm like, I can't tell where this is coming from. And then there's a window. There's one window in that whole room, and that's where it was coming from.
That's very nice. That's cool.
There's some interesting metaphors in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, best season in program history. There was a joke I wanted to make, the branding. There's a fantastic article about Georgia Tech's new uniforms in terms of branding from Jack as well on the website from TheRumbleSeat.com.
2 different sports.
Wow, it's like we write about sports and we work for a sports website or something. Who knew? Let's move on. Let's talk about major roster changes. And I think we can't really start that conversation without talking first about Mariana Brambilla, the aforementioned Viper All-American, the AVCA All-American, who now plays pro ball in Greece, I believe, for Panathinaikos, the last time that I checked, which was a little bit ago. Jake, you have watched Brambilla's, I think, entire career, right? I think she was a freshman basically the same time you were. Give me some words here about what she's meant to the program during her tenure.
You know, that's a sign we've been doing this too long, Akshay. I think I was a junior her freshman year, but I mean, there's a lot that you can say about really on a lot of levels all these departures that we're gonna touch on. But between Brambilla and I would say Michaela Dowd, that first season that they were both on the flats, I think it was Cody Comby was up the middle on that team.
Or maybe
that was the year after. Yeah. Okay. And the kind of, I guess, initial build seems like it was a really long time ago. But if you rewind the clock, it's only really been 4 seasons since Brambilla and Dowd joined, and Tippett and McKissick, Kaiser joined a team that was middling at best. They were about 500 the year before that. 2016, great team, honestly, probably a tournament snub, but really just raised the floor, I think, for the program more than anything, showing, hey, yes, the ability to go out and recruit not just, Brazil, and obviously our staff is awesome at doing that, between Coach Collier, between Claudio, and all those connections they have there, the cult following, if you will, that we can already see rising up around, like Julia Bergman from her time in the VPL or VNL last summer. But really, to kind of get it back on track, you can see Kayla Kaiser's from Louisville, McKissick from Florida, Dowd from Illinois, Tippett, I think, local. So really just all over the world. And it takes a lot of those pieces to hit. And the fact that they all really contributed, whether that was throughout their career or different times in different ways. I think it just goes to show that not only were they exceptional and starting right away in a lot of cases, or at least getting playing time, but the fact that the depth was at such a high level by the time they all left, that, Tippett, Dowd, McKissick, Kaiser, they were all, really sharing the load, sharing the role on the court as well. And I think that shows really the high level that the team has really risen to, and you can't do that without laying the groundwork somewhere. And it's a team. Obviously, Georgia Tech has been to the Elite Eight before, but that was all the way back in 2003. And you can see it in every sport, in every conference, that it doesn't. It's a lot easier to go down than up, and the fact that they were able to do it as fast as they did really is a testament not just to Brambilla, but this entire core, which I believe started, if not their first year, then their second year, winning like 18 games straight. So I think that's a nice little encapsulation of that team, in addition to all of their more famous accolades, if you will. Sorry, a little bit rambling, but that's what you sign up for when you ask me to talk about the emotional connection to Tech sports and iconic figures of the flats.
We can always count on you to be a vibes guy, I think, is the summary there. Jack, I want to ask you the same question because you're a year younger than us, and you kind of timed up well with this entire class as well. What was your sense of the impact of Mariana Brambilla?
The emotional center of the team, by far. She was Bergman could kickstart the game, could kickstart a run at any point, but Brambilla would do it with just absolute ferocity every time that she. If you saw her flying from the back, her picture on the banner is her flying in from the back for a spike. Or for a kill. Once you saw it coming, you're just like, oh, here it comes, and it was of the most fun things to watch on campus. And yeah, it's darn right she should be pro. Like I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that, because she will smack the ball in your face, but then also just back it up. If this was basketball, she would be stepping over people after dunking on them. Like that's that's what we're dealing with here. So it matched, it brought so much to the perfect small arena vibe that O'Keefe has, and Brambilla was very much a tone setter. So that's why, for me, going to matches last year, I'll note here's the secret I haven't let out. Last year was the first time I ever went to any matches. So last year, I can't tell you a thing what happened, but last year I can tell you.
That's what Jake is for.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's what I saw a lot last year.
Real-time follow-up. I checked the Pantaniakos roster, and she's actually currently not listed. So I don't know where she plays. That is somewhere, we'll figure that out at some other point.
Vibes.
Vibes. She
we
plays
feel
with
she's
vibes.
Playing somewhere. Yeah.
She's playing pro somewhere, most likely. Just to round out the departures, setter Maddie McKissick headed to UCLA as a grad transfer. Serving specialist Kayla Kaiser headed to Tulane as a grad transfer. Maddie Tippett and Michaela Dowd both graduated. Any other notes on some of the other departures, Jake?
Yeah. Like I said, I think the high quality play that, it was immediately obvious when Brambilla and Dowd were freshmen is kind of due to them being outside hitters. That's a very splashy position, right? It's you're flying around, you're making kills, you're racking up a lot of stats. But in terms of McKissick, I'm pretty sure that she's up there with one of Tech's Ironman style careers. So don't sleep on that either. So definitely want to make sure, honestly, all five of them, like it's tough to see players go, especially when when you've really enjoyed them playing. And I think I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how the team goes on, because this isn't a team, as you'll see, that's going to fall off. And I think the freshman additions, transfers in, and really just the players who are still here are really going to keep that moving going forward. And I think before we get lost in the feels of, man, remember when we won the NIBC? Remember when we went to the Elite Eight? They're not done yet. And I'm pretty excited for that.
I'll note when Kaiser was getting ready to serve, that's when you stopped to make sure you were watching as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The most unique shot that you were going to see the whole match guaranteed. And she wasn't acing every one of them, and because it was a very precise yet powerful serve. I mean, it was going to go out a fair number of times, but like, you took that knowing that if it got in, the point was basically yours by that point, because
it was ace. It was an ace.
Ace or ace.
If it stayed in, it was an ace, basically.
Yeah. So the two falls in a row, I remember being really mad about postseason sports. The first one being going to the Quick Lane Bowl. Obviously, many of us thought we deserved a little bit better.
Yes, Bowl, the Quick Lane Bowl.
Trolling us on Twitter. But then the next year, the team really rallying for, I believe it was 14 straight wins, 15. They didn't lose from October onwards to close out the year, including the NIBC. And I think, we talk about that serve. Kayla Kaiser with the team's metaphorical back against the wall, down 2-1 at NC State at Reynolds Coliseum, was able to serve out for 10 straight points, win the set, and then win the match in the fifth set. I think that's it's not a postseason memory, but that's something, shouting in the dorm room with my buddies, watching it on a mediocre stream is something that'll last. And I think that's a testament to just how dominant that could be.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the additions to this squad. Cara Bianco comes in at libero from Milton, Georgia, from BT, Blessed Trinity High School. And Anna Boese, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Boese, thank you, is your new right side hitter, middle blocker, coming from Dayton, Ohio, and Troy High School. They are joined by outside hitter transfers, Tali Marmon and Tamara Otene, the first from UCF as a grad transfer, and the second from Illinois State as a junior transfer in. Jack, you got a chance to watch some of these additions in action yesterday at the gold and white game. So I'm going to pitch it over to you. What'd you think?
Otene was the big standout for me. I was expecting it to be Marmon just because, I mean, she's played against us, a tall outside hitter, like would fit the bill of being another compliment for Bergman. But Otene showed. Now, part of it may have just been, I also didn't go to the fourth set. There was three. They played at least four. I left after the third because I was starving. But Otene she showed a lot of versatility in those few sets. In the three sets I was at, Coach Collier had them rotate out who was playing with you every set. So it wasn't a set team in white, set team in blue. It was the gold and white game, but they were the blue jerseys. So everyone basically played with everybody. Yeah, no, they don't have a white and a gold jersey, so they did what they could.
Did they not have a gold set in the new set of three?
No, it's
or did I miss it?
It's white and blue. Just white and blue.
Anyway,
but yeah, no, Otene was fantastic. I mean, Marmon had some good moments too. Also, keep in mind they're like 4 or 5 days into training camp, basically too. So like they are. I mean, I could tell even during warm-ups that's like, okay, they are not up to mid-season speed yet in warm-ups. Like it's just you're very traditional first game jitters. You're just kind of standing there a little bit. There's not much flow going on, which is to be expected of every team ever in your first preseason anything. So that's not a red flag at all. But yeah, and then Boese was the when I asked, and this is kind of cheating on my interview that we'll put up that'll be in a little bit with Coach Collier, but she mentioned Boese by name when I asked her about what she saw yesterday and the new people, and so. If Coach likes her, I feel like we should like her too, is my guess there.
Spoiler alert, Mr. Purdy. Spoiler alert. I wasn't going to tease that just yet. Jake, we put together a probable starting 11, or at least a guess. Starting 11, starting 7. There's not 11.
You watch too much soccer, my guy.
I watched a lot of soccer this weekend. A potential starting 7 for this season. Do you wanna give us this so we can chat about it?
Yeah, obviously, I think just after the gold and white game alone, it's a little bit tough to, divine out a potential starting 7, given that there is a lot of substitution. You're, splitting your team in half, all that good stuff. But in terms of, previous year's experience, we saw obviously Bergman, the returning star of the team, Bertolino, really ate up a lot of the looks at outside hitter as well. So I expect those two to be, out there complementing each other. Otene, big vibes, as we'll get into in a little bit there. I'm excited to see her play. Honestly, did not get to tune in yesterday because I was out and about in the city, but that should be good. And then we'll see Moss and Morissette up the middle. The two of them have held that down for a full year, so I see no reason for that to change. And then at setter, you got D'Amico, and libero, you got Pimentel, and that's kind of the plug and play option, right? We saw both of them getting a lot of time last year and really kind of transcending established starters there. D'Amico, more of a spelling time for Maddie McKissick, but Pimentel really taking over as the year went on. So would definitely expect to see them, fully cement those roles this year.
And Jack, you, based on your gold and white game experience, you had some suggested subs, those first 2 ladies off of the bench.
Yeah, Drunick got a lot of action yesterday. Slash had a fan club for those cross-country runners that were there with signs. It was very cool to see that. Drunick got a lot of action. I mean, she's also a senior. So, I mean, I figure she's been around the block enough to at least get herself in the rotation. And then Marmon, I mean, she's also not exactly just because she's one of the older ones on the team, but she was also good at UCF last year. Against Tech last year, she had the best stats of anybody on their squad. Also, she's really tall. You could put out. I mean, if Collier wanted to, she could just put out the tall lineup and just do that.
6'2".
Yeah,
I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah,
I think that'll be helpful.
She helps. She's really good, so she can be really helpful with just matchups. Also, just depending on who we're playing and what the situation calls for. But at the very least, she'll be a reliable outside hitter. when
I got a quick
are
I got
out.
a quick question for you, Jack, since we're
Mhm.
on the white and gold recap vibes here. I didn't see a box score. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because it wasn't a formal game. But if you had to estimate, knowing O'Keefe can seat 1,200, what would you put the attendance at? Because the pictures looked pretty good
Um,
from what I could see.
at least 400.
Okay, that's
It,
that's a
it
great start.
the student section was like there was no one else in the band column. The middle section was half full. I mean, it was the student side was like, well, there weren't that many students there for one, but also because not everyone's moved in. But like
Almost no one, yeah.
yeah, the alumni, well, freshmen are there, but the alumni slash the fam, there was a lot of family members there. Like I saw a lot from Aaron Moss's contingency, like they had shirts and everything.
Cool.
And it was also free, so like there was a lot of it's on a Sunday afternoon. It was a good day for parents to bring their kids, so there was a lot of little ones out there as well. So no, it felt at least half full. Maybe 400 may not be the right number. Not that I was counting, but no, it felt for a practice game, it was very good. Very good.
So I did look up the box score because there is one actually. There's not,
Really?
it doesn't have the attendance. The attendance is listed as 0. But if you were interested in effectively meaningless set scores, 25-21 white, 25-13 white, 28-26 gold, 25-14 gold. So they split it and they didn't play a fifth. So
didn't play a fifth, and also people were just changing out uniforms and changing their teams, so there is no consistency on who won whatever. Everybody won, everybody lost this time.
Cool.
Yeah, it literally looks like everyone played on both teams. That's weird to look at.
Don't investigate that box score. Just close it now.
Instead of looking at preseason games, we should talk a little bit more about the regular season schedule. Let's talk about the non-conference first. I'm not going to make the UConn joke again because there is no UConn on this schedule. So I still guess it's a non-con schedule. Anyway, we went over some of the notables a couple of weeks ago, but I'll read some of the notable non-cons off again. Ole Miss, who finished in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Illinois, who made it to the third round. Dayton was the Atlantic 10 champ and received votes in the final coaches poll. They were in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Returning feature Ohio State. They were who Tech dispatched in the Sweet 16. BYU was the WCC champ and also made the Sweet 16. Some others in the non-con, Arkansas, Arizona State, and Athens as well. Jake, you had a thought about some of these conference matchups. I think we'll swing back to it when we do a little bit more of a deep dive into Ohio State, but I want to give you some time to walk this out.
In terms of the ridiculous RPI gauntlet that we're going to have, because it's going to be a big one. For those
absolutely.
For those who are used to the, I guess, Tulane, Alabama State, Idaho State, these are all real opponents I can remember going to watch us play at O'Keefe.
Oh, buddy, do I.
Preseason, extravaganza. This is going to be extremely different, right? I think between all non-con teams, we've got 5 teams, a couple conference champions. We got BYU volleyball was part of their entire athletic department, winning a national title and not losing a game for the entire month of November last year. And then you've got Arkansas, UGA, and Arizona State rounding out, I guess the also rans, if you will. This is gonna be hard. I think this has very real potential to be the hardest schedule they've ever played. So,
yep. And that's just the non-conference. We have not even talked about the conference schedule. But before we get there, Jack, you had a thing.
Yeah, I'll highlight Ohio State just as one of the more. It's a notable Power 5 team that we're gonna have to go up against, and it's a nice it'll be a nice replay for them as well. Coming off, I mean, we're the last team Ohio State played. We haven't mentioned that the preseason poll came out today. That Tech is 9th, so we're this is the highest preseason ranking Tech's ever had. Ohio State is 7th. at this point, and that will change because there's gonna be another poll and there's gonna be some polls in between when we play them eventually.
Yes, putting out polls without actually playing games. It's very cool.
Yes, very interesting. But they finished 27-6 last year, so same number of losses. They were 15-5 in Big Ten play, and Big Ten's a very comparable conference to the ACC just in terms of overall depth. So they're going to be facing a lot of the same problems and challenges we will, in that their conference schedule is loaded and their non-conference schedule is loaded. Their first 4 game, or last year they had wins against Washington, Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, and Penn State, all ranked at the time. Also a fair number of losses against ranked teams, including Tech in the Sweet 16. Mac Pedraza and Kylie Murr are 2 of their standouts. They made it to Team USA's, the college version of Team USA for volleyball after the season. And then Riley Rader, and one of the 2 of them were All-Americans. And in the end for Rader, she was at her best against the best team. She had her career highest kill games against Penn State and Nebraska, so they're not a team to shy away from stuff. But what's critical is that we are their 4th game on the schedule, and it'll be after they play 3 currently ranked opponents, which is San Diego, Louisville, BYU, and us. So they'll get the taste. They'll get a hard taste before us, and they play all those games on the road as well. None of these are at home, and we're on the last of that. So that is a good schedule. If there is a schedule loss in volleyball, which I imagine there has to be because of the tournament format, there is sometimes when you pack a bunch of games to a weekend. That's good. They play 14 times against ranked teams. They are RPI stacked like we are.
Yeah. One point before I let you go, Jake, because I'm obsessed with analytics. 2021 for Ohio State, they finished 8th in Viper, right ahead of Georgia Tech in 9th. Mac Pedraza led the team in terms of win probability added, with literally 20 wins added on the way that she played in 104 sets. Riley Rader was a 2nd team All-American per Viper, and Kylie Murr was a 3rd team All-American per Viper. They had the 7th hardest strength of schedule in the country. So they're putting together another challenge, another national title contention challenge here. Jake, what do you have on Ohio State?
It's really just another plank in the delightful spectrum of the Big Ten is actually building a volleyball conference, not a football conference. Changed my mind. Between the UCLA and USC additions coming in the future, the Big Ten is the place to play volleyball, which is, it's good for them. Whoever wins that is going to be, having survived quite the gauntlet. I think folding this into the Ohio State discussion, it's worth noting BYU, we are playing them the same weekend in Atlanta, but among those teams, BYU will play Louisville and Pitt. Ohio State will play, that's BYU will play Pitt and Ohio State. Ohio State will play Louisville and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, Louisville, and Pitt will all play each other. So I feel like that's an interesting thing to note, in that, you don't really see this quite extensive layering of the non-conference schedule. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely off base here, but it should mean that, we get a lot of overlapping data points among those 5 teams.
Yeah. Also, we totally made the schedule advantageous. Right now, it's listed we play BYU in that Georgia Tech Classic on Thursday, and they don't play again until Sunday against Ohio State.
Okay. I like that.
So I think we have a home football game that Saturday anyways, so they might be just not playing Saturday because that'd be not smart.
Yeah, usually that's how they split it up. I will say it's notable, if we're going to take a little bit of a soft left turn towards the ACC schedule, having mentioned Louisville and Pitt, obviously both Final Four teams. But once again, the ACC schedule sets up to have Louisville and Pitt and Tech, and Tech and Louisville all having home and homes, which the fact that it's happened 2 years in a row indicates to me that someone is doing that on purpose. And I'm not exactly mad because, well, one, we're playing Pitt and McCamish, and that should be excellent. But between those 3 teams, those have to be the most intriguing games just to the casual fan and to the RPI, aren't they?
Absolutely. Like,
I'll say I would say we save that answer for Coach Collier.
Hey, fair enough.
more
fair enough.
spoilers, but those games are must watch TV. That's all I'll say. Like, that kind of round robin situation is must watch TV.
Yeah. Also rounding out the home and home doubles up are Clemson and Florida State. Florida State is a perennial team, one of the historic conference powers prior to the addition of half of the Big East. So just worth noting that there. We'll play the rest of the teams at least home or away. I think that sets me up for my little deep dive. I will talk about a team that we swept last year, and that is the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Athens, all those delightful things.
The University of Georgia at Athens is how I'm going to refer to them.
Jack, great work about Ohio State, right? He came in with stats and key wins and all this stuff. And I would like to present on UGA vibes, the state of the program. The team has been down for a while. They've only beat Tech 3 times this century. So in 22 years, that is 3 wins. You can count them if you want at home. I'm sure that's not at all parallel to any other sports. So no one asked about football. Anyways, like I said, their team isn't bad, even if they've kind of been a lower tier than Tech in the past. The SEC is a league dominated at the top by a couple key teams, Kentucky, Florida, and Tennessee being your usual top 25 teams. The Lady Vols, Gators, and Wildcats are all quite good, but it's not a league that's risen quite as fast as the ACC. I think when it's all said and done, their best win last year was number 38 Arkansas, and also they got a win over South Carolina, a tournament team. But I think it's more telling that they didn't get a lot of cracks at the top 25. Like I said, this is more just vibes based. I do want to revel in the Schadenfreude of being decidedly better than our rivals in a sport for a long period of time, because that feels nice. But just something to put on the radar. I know that not that the ACC surprised us last year per se, but I think it definitely was a cut above what it's been in the past. And I mean, if we could do it in the ACC, I see no reason why the 5th Power 5 team, Power 5 league couldn't join the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12 as we have. So just interesting, I think, to keep an eye on the SEC writ large this year.
One last thing on Athens, just to set up the, just to give context on where that falls in the schedule. That is the last game before the conference slate. That is a 7 p.m. tip in Athens on September 17th. So that is the final sort of jump off point right before you get into the meat of the ACC slate.
Yes, and if you do decide to go to Athens, there's exactly one thing you need, and it's not a ticket. You can get that at the door probably. What you need is great quality Tech merchandise. As we've said for, I think, 3 weeks now, we are big fans of Section 103 over here, and we feel that with it being our volleyball preview, it's only right to shout out their featured design of the week for our show being the Point Tech volleyball shirt. It's very crisp. It's very nice, clean logo, and it's very clearly a volleyball shirt. You will not confuse it with any other sports. It's got a volleyball on it, and it says Point Tech, which if you've never been to a Tech volleyball game, is what they yell after every time somebody from Tech scores a point. It's really great synergy. Volleyball is a sport where a lot of the traditions make a lot of sense, and that works in my brain really well. Great shirt, same soft quality apparel that you're going to get from them no matter what. And of course, if you do your ordering enough that it's over $70, that's free shipping. So definitely keep that in mind as you prepare not only for volleyball but football as well. They do have a new design out. It is the Up with White and Gold shirt. It's also white. So, a lot of ways to get prepared for your whiteout apparel between football, volleyball, and just getting in the spirit. They've also got buttons out. I haven't seen them in person yet, but I presume that they're pretty good because the ATL logo is always sharp. In terms of plugs, Find them at section103.com or on Twitter at section103. And that concludes our intermission and brings us to set number 2.
All right, this is likely the second part of Signs of the Southland, episode 129, I want to say. I lost count after about 125. But with us is the head coach of the Georgia Tech volleyball team, Michelle Collier. Thanks for coming on this Monday morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We had yesterday was the scrimmage game. How did that go in your eyes?
It was great. I think it's always good to get out there in front of people, just kind of that added pressure and environment. I think it's nice for us to be able to see where we're at. I mean, we only had a week of practices, so obviously not a lot of time with a lot of new players and players stepping into positions and things like that. So it's going to take a little bit more time for us to be where we need to be. But I think that we have a great group, and I think that yesterday really showed the depth of the group. I think that it's good. There's a lot of solid players in every position. So yeah, I'm just excited to keep growing and developing the team and, see how we finish the season here.
Yeah. How, was there anyone that caught your eye? Maybe that you were like, okay, that was a little bit more than I was expecting to see today out of them.
No, I mean, I think everybody's doing a good job. I think that Anna, actually, our freshman in the middle, has really stepped up and, just filled a void there. We had an injury late this summer to Callie, and, Anna had to step in and be kind of fill in that third middle position and then kind of challenge Bree and Erin in that position. I thought she did really well, and she's responding really well, especially for not having trained in the middle for a while. So it was nice to see that. It was nice to see our transfers just be able to jump in and feel comfortable, on the court right away. I think that Bella, Nicole, Ashley, and like our setters did a good job. It's been good to see just kind of their growth there and how we're going to develop our new identity without Matt here, so that'll be just fun to see how that develops. And we have a solid group of pins. I think that every outside right side on our gym is playing well. It's getting better. And, I thought that Liz, Kara, Paola did a good job in the libero position. We had some good defensive plays there. So yeah, definitely, we got lots of work to do, don't get me wrong, but I think a great start. I think that we have a group that's committed and bought into the things, and they understand what it takes to play at a level that we know we can play. So I think it was a great opportunity. We were super happy with the turnout. We had lots of supporters here, so that was fun to see. And it's I think that it's something that we have earned with the things that we've been doing lately. But we also understand that with that, it comes a big responsibility and pressure and expectations, and having a chance to start to manage that. I think it's always nice to get a chance to do that before the real matches starts.
Yeah. No, I mean, looking at the schedule, it's not exactly easy, but by the look, I mean, I forgot how many tournament teams there were, but what was your reaction when you saw that the first time you saw that? Or at least I assume you knew some matches were coming, but now the full thing's there. What's top of mind about it this year?
Yeah, no, as we're putting together our preseason schedule, obviously RPI was a big thing for us, and we wanted to maximize what we were able to build on last year, and we wanted to get challenged, understanding that we lost some key players, and, there's going to be new adaptations. I think we also trust what we have coming back, and that has been in our gym for a while as well, just in different roles. So, we knew that we needed to, I think that we want to be playing at home again, at the end of the year and hosting. And so these things requires a tough schedule, and so we really had to build a schedule that would give us that chance to do that. And now we got to prepare and execute and see where it goes. But we're definitely going to be very challenged, and the teams that we played twice in our conference, obviously with Louisville, Pitt, and Florida State and Clemson, it makes it extra hard, but we've been getting the little hard 4 matches at the end there for a while from the ACC. So no surprise there. We're just, we just got to get ready to play. Every match will be a battle. But I think it's exciting. It's exciting to be playing at this level and to be being challenged at this level. Pressure is a privilege, and we're getting ready for it. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. What then? See, we all were Elite 8 last year. Well, I mean, I imagine championships the end goal, but what else maybe within the team are you hoping to get from this year?
Yeah, no, I think we just we just want to maximize our chances. I think that we're going to have great opportunities. I think that we have the talent to maximize our schedule, to do the things that we want to do. Obviously, ACC championships and continuing to be in the NCAA and be amongst the best in the country is our goals. But we understand that, we have to earn those and we have to execute. So we're mainly focused on the process and then doing the things that we can control in our gym to get better, to be the best team that we can be in our team culture, just understanding that everybody plays a big role into the bigger picture, and just keep getting better and playing some good volleyball and have fun out there. I think that obviously the championships and the results will be a byproduct of the things that we're doing, but we're mainly focused on doing the right things behind the scenes so that we can, we can get what we need.
Yeah. What I think the most exciting part when our crew saw the schedule was the McCamish game. That it's like, okay, we don't it fills up and it's great, but we know we could get more into a game. What was the process that got y'all to figure out that, okay, we can do a game in McCamish?
No, I feel like our program needs to keep growing and it needs to keep evolving. And I think that we have a great volleyball community here in Atlanta and in Georgia in general. I think Pitt's a great team, so I think that the volleyball community will respond to an opportunity to watch, hopefully 2 great teams battle and get out there. And I do think, as we develop the game and we grow the game, it's important to expose the game at different levels to maybe a different crowd that hasn't seen volleyball yet, that maybe McCamish, will be willing to come out and watch. And I think that we got to do a great job promoting that game. But our goal is to try to fill that lower bowl, maybe get, 4,000 or 5,000 people there to really make it a great experience. I do believe this sport brings that kind of opportunity. I think that it's, there are a lot of places where it's being exposed, and Atlanta is a big youth market. There's a lot of youth volleyball clubs. There's a lot of volleyball people in the area. Tennessee, like all these surrounding states are also growing. So I think it's a great opportunity. I hope that, we do a great job marketing and people buy in and come support us, because that could be the next step for our program. It's we want to one day win national championships here, and in order to do that, we have to keep growing and challenging ourselves. O'Keefe is our comfort zone, but to be out there, I know that the Georgia Tech fans are going to respond to that. They're going to be there to support us. So it's just a fun little different environment to be a part of, and will help us. Will help us preparation for the next stage as we get to the NCAA too. We play in bigger places, and so all of that's going to be cool. So I'm looking forward to it. It's awesome that the administration bought into the idea and they're helping us make it a great day over there. And we got to do our job here on the court, make sure we keep preparing and get better. And then I'm sure our fans will be behind us. So we're excited to be able to provide a bigger venue and see if we can, show the strength of the game here.
No, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that gets close to those numbers you were saying with 4,000 to 5,000. Like it's busting at the seams, even just on a normal game anyways, especially last year. So to get in there, sure. At least until tickets sell out, and then once tickets sell out, that's it. But that's the unseen part of like, well, how many would come that we're still that we're trying to figure out, which is really a cool experiment to run.
For sure.
For sure. I want to talk about transfer stuff. I mean, now that the transfer portal is completely changed and it's nothing like it was 3-4 years ago, for getting players like Marmon and Otene, is there do you have a general strategy yet of what you're trying to find when you're recruiting, or if you're recruiting through the transfer portal?
No, I mean, I think right now one of the things that we're starting to do with the younger classes is make sure that we stay in tune with every position, every player, even though you might not need that player for that certain class. Eventually, right, if they end up in the transfer portal, you want to have some kind of background knowledge of them, you know, and kind of have kept up with them through the years, even when they were in college. So that, I think, added a different dynamic to who we're looking at for each class, you know, and obviously now we're having to look at more players than, hey, we don't need a setter for the year, so should we not look at setters? And now it's like, you know, we got to be in the known of every recruit out there, because as they go to other programs and if they decided to transfer, you know, a lot of those are happening very fast. And so we have to be able to make quick decisions on that. So that has been one of the, I think, dynamics that change with recruiting. And then just kind of figuring out, you know, do we get a freshman or do we get a transfer? What are the give and takes there? Obviously, if you can develop a freshman, you will have a little more longevity than a transfer. And, you know, they come in your culture and you can kind of mold that a little bit easier. But transfers bring in, you know, a lot of them are hungry to play. They want that position. They want that role. And they're also, you know, more experienced. So, I mean, I think it's good and bad. We've gotten some great ones, so that has helped us. I think Tam and Tally are already making a big impact here. They're doing a good job. So for us, it's been good. You know, we have a little more of a challenge on the academic side to get them in, and to also get them eligible. So it's not as a simple process as maybe some other schools have it. So that can be something that hurts us sometimes. But I think that we have a good system in place now that it's been pretty efficient, and we're able to really offer a lot of intangibles that other places don't. So I think we really, as a group in general, as a department, have learned how to maximize that and, you know, how to take advantage of the transfer portal. You know, if that's what they're giving us, we got to get used to it and we got to make the most out of it. So I think that we've been adapting to that and, you know, just managing. So as far as this year was the first year that we really had, you know, that many kids transferred and that come as older players. Like we had a few other transfers that were, you know, came in as sophomores before. But so, yeah, it'll be exciting. I mean, even from day one, I can already tell that they have already made a big impact on our program. And it's nice to have their experience and just you know, their level of play and stack to the younger class that we have and really just kind of be able to build a strong core group here of players.
Yeah. Are you anticipating Tally and Tamara to fit into the rotations pretty normally going forward, or is that still to be seen through the South Carolina game?
I think everybody we bring into our gym, we anticipate them, you know, making an impact on the court. Eventually, obviously, we can only play 6 at a time, but they wouldn't be in our gym if we didn't think that they could come in and help us win matches at the levels that we're playing. So yeah, we expect them to be on the court eventually. Don't know exactly when, why, how, you know, but yeah, I think any player that's in our roster, I mean, we're preparing them to be on the court and when they have to be there to be an impact and help us score points and win matches. So that's the goal. But Tally and Tim have already made a big impact here. And it would be cool to see kind of how their role develops as we get a couple more practices underway here.
I think when I was over there, I was most excited to see them because I'd seen everybody else play that was from the from last year. And I mean, Otene had I think there was she had a couple general pretty good spikes, but then a couple of quick reads that were like, okay, there's something there that will be more dynamic than I think some others will have generally had so far. So that was really cool to see. And then I didn't realize how large Tally was too.
Yeah,
in the back,
she's tall.
which is like, okay, so we can throw out the tall lineup maybe, which is a fun
we're
little.
definitely very physical. Yeah, we're bigger, we're more physical. I think that they bring in good experience, different strengths than some of our other players, Right. So it's just nice to have options.
Yeah, for sure. Let me shift to NIL, because this stuff also is like in our brains, like, okay, where's the play here? Tech, as you were saying, with transfer recruiting is in a weird spot, and so that kind of threads its way into NIL in some forms as well.
Yeah.
As a whole, how have you seen the introduction of NIL impact, I guess, maybe the day-to-day running the team, or what you're seeing from the players, or how they're using their time a little bit differently in the last year or so?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it has had some impact. I haven't seen a drastic change on their behavior or on their work ethic or commitment to the things that they were doing, with the things that we can control, with our training or their recovery but I do think that our program has had a big shift from, just being a good program to being a great program. And I think that our players understand the responsibility and the professionalism that it needs to come with that. But I think that that helps them with NIL and these things, as the better they prepare themselves and they perform, the more opportunities I think they're going to have to be exposed to great deals of things outside volleyball, and to just be role models, to younger players, and be able to continue to impact the game, which for us, it's always something that we talk about. It's how do we continue to impact and lead, and in different ways. Everybody has different ways of leading. So we have had, different roles of players kind of have NIL deals. So it's not always just the players that are scoring points. There are a lot of players that are doing a lot with the community. They're doing a lot within the athletic department. They're getting opportunities like that as well, to be part of NIL opportunities and to continue to develop themselves and their brand. And I think that's neat. I think that it's a good thing. Obviously, there are the extreme cases, but I think it generally has been a good thing. And I think we know it's an important part, but we don't want that to be the focal reason why they're playing or competing or coming here, because we feel like what we have to offer is bigger than the money. I think that the lessons and the things they're going to learn here, they're not going to be you can't really put a price value into those things. So we want players that understand that and value. I think just the environment, the opportunity that they're having, and they understand the impact that can bring to their lives, but at the same time, helping them maximize what's out there for them with NIL. And I think that those are things that as a department, we continue to get better and better. And for me as a coach too, it's how do I develop my staff, and how do we transition into this new thing, and how do we help our players create opportunities and maximize some of this stuff. So it's been good. I think that it hasn't been anything crazy on our end, but they've gotten some good deals. And I think for us, it hasn't impacted what we do. So that has been great to see,
Yeah, that's cool. I was ever at the point where I could play in NCAA ball, but that would have thrown a wrinkle if I had gotten there. I'm like, I don't know what I would have done. That would have put me. So it's been fascinating to watch and see how it just off the field, like who shows up in my Instagram feed one day. I'm like, oh, okay, they got that sponsor or whatever. It's like, okay, it's a fun little side piece to just, I guess, watch. I don't know. It feels like you're watching E Network on my Instagram feed of the various athletes, but it's fun to see. This was a question from one of our I was a business major, and so the analytics and stuff was not my strength, but of our analytical writers, they did want to ask if do y'all incorporate data at all into your prep, or is there any serious analytics focused things y'all are doing when figuring out maybe best lineups, or how you're approaching, especially with a lot of good teams this year, how you're going to approach those games?
Yeah, no, I think we use the numbers to, I think, revalidate what we're seeing. I don't know that I think that we first make our decisions and then we go back to the numbers and be like, hey, is this really what we're seeing? Or can they tell us something else that we might not be seeing? And I think most of the time they're pretty in line with what we're seeing. So that's a good thing. I think obviously there's a lot of other things that impact the game besides just the result of what it's being statted. So I think that I try not to base my decisions on stats. Obviously, stats are important, but I think that they're usually in line with what you see. And then I also think that we have to see a lot of other small things that maybe for somebody that doesn't have the critical eye or that hasn't been used to the sport, they might not be as black and white, right? So those are things that we try to do. Obviously, we use it for scouting a lot. We just try to understand opponents' rotations or player tendencies and things like that, to just kind of, but again, I think most of the time to double check, is this really what we're seeing? Yes, that makes sense. Hasn't been too many occasions where we're like, whoa, this number says this, but really not seeing this. So we use it. Obviously, we have a stats program. I think that we use a lot of data and stuff for recovery, just kind of managing their workload, the impact on their bodies, so our strength coach uses a few different metrics to help us, I think from a performance standpoint, just keeping them healthy and fresh, and then managing what we do in practice. I think that we use a lot of analytics for that more than I think we're using for match play. And maybe that's just a particular thing. I mean, it's, I didn't really grow up with tons of numbers, and I think that the game is very well connected emotionally to within the players, and it's a very small space, so you got to have a good feel for what's going on besides just the numbers. And I think that we have a good balance of that. Obviously we're not going to throw away the numbers because they tell us something, but I think that it's not, I think, the focal point on how we base some of our decisions.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's not like baseball where you got a few thousand square feet of area to like focus on, and you can pinpoint more specifically. It's a very fast game.
Yes.
I guess if you could measure someone's quick reflexes, that might be where you get something. But that's so tight of something that it's just like, well, okay. Those are definitely things that we'll try to, and we're always trying to find ways to, what else can we do? How can we measure certain things? So these are always things we're trying, their reaction time, right? Or how quick they can be off the ground. All these things they would be helpful for their development and performance, right? So those are things that we have a few things that help us with that, but most of the time we haven't digged in. So if you have anybody in analytics that want to jump in and show us some stuff, tell them they're more than welcome to come see me if they have any ideas. Maybe so. Only a couple more here. What for? I guess this carrot piggybacks off the McCamish game stuff. But if there's people that are out there that know that picked up maybe last, like, oh, wait a second, Tech volleyball is probably the best sport in terms of performance on Tech's campus right now, but they just don't know anything about volleyball, didn't grow up with it. They're still trying to learn the game. What would you say is there something they should key in on if they wanted to start watching Tech volleyball this season?
I think one of the most fun parts of watching the game live is just how physical it is. I think that you say, oh, girls volleyball, and then they're like, oh, they kind of picture what they've seen in movies maybe, but when you see it in real life, I mean, these are legit athletes, elite athletes who are working really hard, and they're performing at a very high level. I mean, just the fact that, for example, somebody like Julia was able to train here and then transition her game, to an international stage against the best players in the world, and be a standout player at that level really says a lot about what we're doing here and how they're playing, even at the NCAA level and the ACC. And I mean, it's a great level of the sport. It's a really hard sport to play really well. It's not a simple sport. So those are all things that as you continue, I think as you see more and more, you start to appreciate more. But it's quick, every play is a point, so that's fun. They get points all the time. But yeah, it's just and it's a sport that it's in a very small space. There's a lot of people, so communication, having to be in sync, like these things are really they're really hard to do. I mean, they might look simple when you're watching them, but they're really hard to do it well, at a high level. And I just think our environment is awesome. So I doubt that there is anybody that comes to watch a match and then goes back and it's like, oh, I'm never coming to this again. Like there is no way that they come and they see it and they're not excited about the next match, So I think it's just a sport that needs to get, I think in the US, it doesn't get the exposure that it needs, especially it's the most played in high school, the club tournaments are insane. So, I mean, the viewers are there, the population is there playing the sport. So it needs to be put out there more, I think, for people to see and be more exposed. But I do think that anybody that comes to watch it live really understands how fun it is. It's dynamic. There's a lot going on. And it's a simple game. I mean, you don't have to know all the rules. So you got to know, ball hits the ground, the other team scores, keep the ball from hitting the ground, and then, and then you keep it moving. But obviously, I think that it's a great environment. And when people come watch, I think they're all coming back. And, we're running out of space for them to come back. So we need to continue to, continue to grow it and expose it. And, the AC network has been helpful, but I think there's a lot more we can do here to market the sport and to expose it. But I do think it's something that people really can get hooked on once they watch it live.
I would tell them, try to stand in front of Bergman hitting a ball and then think about it later.
Yeah, it's like, oh, why didn't you dig this? I mean, you see Bianca hitting yesterday?
No. Yeah. No, Bianca she was great yesterday. There was a couple, I was like, oh, we got all of that one. And I mean, all of that one. So, no, it was great. Last question. Do you like the new uniforms?
Oh, I love them. I think they're great. I think the girls were excited about them. Again, I just think it's an evolution of how our game is going. Our players are physical. They look great in it. They work hard to look great in it. So I think that for them, it's cool. I think it really helps mobility-wise as well. Their arms are free to move and they're a little more flexible. They look good. They feel good in them. I thought Adidas did a great job on the details of the things that they work with us on and that we wanted to do. We wanted our core values in there. We wanted certain things. And we wanted some traditional things from Georgia Tech. So we brought some things back and kind of just made them a little more exposed. And so, they look great. They were very well accepted by the girls. And I think that's the number one thing is we want them to be fired up when they see them. And it was a good response. So seems like everybody else enjoys them too, like them. So hopefully we can play as good as we look.
Yeah. Was the honeycomb pattern y'all's idea, or did Adidas come to y'all with that?
Oh, I think it was a collective idea. Jill, our director of operations, was working hard on the designs. Was overseeing some of that stuff with her. They helped us do our one for Brazil, and that was like a big hit on our team. When we did those, they really loved them. So we were like, oh, let's just, get some for this year as well. Like this sleeveless, seems like it's something that we got good response from the girls on. So we just wanted to do it differently. It looks like the material is a little different too. So it's a little lighter. And so for them, it feels like there's a lot of them that sweat a lot. So it dries quicker and things like that and doesn't stay. So all those things were a plus for them. So yeah, it was exciting. We were grateful that they did a good job collaborating with us on that, and we came to a great solution. So it was cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's good to have, knowing that O'Keefe can get a little warm coming in.
Yes.
Which I think that adds to the fun of it, that you just feel like you're in a cooker by the end of it. It just makes it better.
Part of the environment.
Absolutely. That is all we had. I really appreciate you coming and talking with me. And we'll be at one of our hosts, Jay, Key bought season tickets, so he's going to be there all the time. I'll get there whenever I can get in there, because it's of the most fun experiences Tech has to offer. And
thank you, and we appreciate you guys' support and talking about it and the exposure. Thank you for helping us just grow it out there and make more people aware of the great things that we're doing here. So thank you so much.
Welcome back for set 3, folks. This is Scions of the Southland. After listening to that interview with Coach Collier, let's talk about some narratives to follow for this season of volleyball to kick off set 3. Mr. Purdy, you have the con for number 1. What are you looking for this year?
I mean, getting back to the tournament again, for sure. I mean, that's important stuff right there. I asked this to, as we just listened to, I asked Collier, all right, obviously the title is the spot, and I didn't feel like I needed to get her to say that, because I'm like, duh, we're good enough to get there. So I think that's what we got to do. And it'll be interesting to see how Bertolino fills in whatever gap is there. That Brambilla left, what percentage is that? Should be all her? Is she going to make? I mean, also she was a freshman last year. She's just a sophomore. She could make a massive leap. And I didn't even mention earlier, she was also a standout at the white and gold game as well. And so I think if you're going to point at one person to make a leap, I think Bergman could, but she's already so darn good that I'd be like, all right, let's look at Bertolino here.
Mr. Grant.
I think we're going to have a lot of games where we can define ourselves, define our season to get great reps. And there's going to be 6 games against top 10 teams. That is more than last year. So if your expectations versus last year are higher, just note it's also going to be harder. But yeah, 6 games against top 10 teams. And keep in mind, there are only 9 other top 10 teams, because we are a top 10 team. So not only do we have the quality that we had last year, but the expectations start higher, because, people have seen what Tech can do. And I think it should be pretty telling. They'll have plenty of opportunities to make statements and get statement wins and get the new folks in the rotation as well, and pick up where they left off.
I'll add, both of those were great, by the way. I'll add something I want to see is how plug and play this scheme is, right? I know we didn't talk a lot of tactics, and we're not a big volleyball tactics people. I don't think we understand the game at that kind of level, but I want to see how some of these transfers, some of these freshmen just slot into positions where there were historically great players for this program, right? How does Tamara Tene or Tally Marmon fit into that outside hitter spot that was Mariana Barbias? How does Isabella D'Amico play more time, do with more time at the setter position, right? How is this really a plug and play scheme? Is this something that we're looking forward to just being these players are of similar quality kind of deal? And it's the unit that's better, or is it about individual performances within that unit? So that's what I'm at least looking for as we project out into the year. But to wrap up set 3 and our sweep, let's ask ourselves the same final question as Jack did, Coach Collier. And Jack, I'll turn this on you first. Why? If you are a neutral, if you are someone that doesn't follow Tech volleyball, if you're a freshman on campus, why should you watch this team?
This is the best team on campus in any sport we have, flat out. If you want to see the best we have to offer, it's going to be this team, and it's not particularly close in my mind. considering some departures of last year's seniors. I mean, that's shown by the fact that they wanted to get a game in McCamish and they got it too, and that the administration's behind them. Like, yeah, let's push this stuff. Let's get this good. And I mean, Coach mentioned, like, she knows the talent pool is great in Atlanta. Like, this is how you make yourself bigger. This is how we get better in the future. And so I do think that this year we'll be able to carry the success of last year and still reinforce it with another good team this year. And we have continuity because Berlino was a freshman, and it was, in theory, will be here the whole way, and assuming she doesn't transfer. And so, yeah, I think if you're on campus or if you know someone on campus, this will be the popularity of volleyball will be brand new, and the accessibility of it via the McCamish game will be huge, because there's a shot, if the marketing campaign works, they're going to fill the lower bowl. They're going to get to 5,000 people.
Hey, I would cry tears of joy. So I think my point is kind of related to that. You can fold in campus popularity to also more general popularity, right? The thesis statement here for me is that it's easily accessible both by price and entertainment value, right? As an alumnus of Tech who still lives in the area in Atlanta, my friends, my associates, these are people that I can go and say, hey, I know you're not that into volleyball, you've never seen the game, but it's cheap. It's not hard to get into. Associates, yeah, I know it's a weird wording, Akshay. I see your face, but it's cheap. It's not hard to get into the game, right? I think this all solidified in my mind when Coach said, every action ends with a point, right? There's no dull moment. Everything matters. Everything builds, and I think that is valuable. I say this as somebody who had never seen more than, I think, one game of volleyball in my life, TV or live or otherwise. When I got to campus, and that first game, my freshman year was a UGA volleyball game. We won in 5 sets, and it was something that even me as a freshman, not really knowing what was going on, I could follow the traditions. Obviously, it was free for students, but it's not too much more pricey for folks who are interested. Events or even families, right? And I think that's pretty telling. Just to tie it back into that, I was listening today to the most recent Dead Letters Patreon podcast for Split Zone Duo. It's on Nebraska.
No free ads.
I promise this is related, but the guest they had on interviewing talked about how difficult it was to get Nebraska volleyball tickets, right? They were so good for so long. It was inaccessible, even as somebody who was a kid growing up in Nebraska and liking the sport. And this is the kind of culture we have the ability to build at Tech, right? There is nobody for miles that can touch us right now in terms of quality, in terms of access to recruiting internationally and domestically. When I say entertainment value, I mean that I think this can only get better. And they're going to fill McCamish, they're going to fill O'Keefe, and it's going to make for great energy and crowd access, and it's something that families and friends and even the people that you work with, you can say, hey, if you need something to do on maybe not a Friday night, that's a little bit of a tough sell for some people, but Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m., come down to Midtown. A lot easier to get there too. So,
yeah, for sure. It'll be a good time. Also, just want to thank Coach Collier, for coming on. She did not have to when we asked for someone to talk to. I was not expecting because we would get Coach Collier to say yes.
Jack was very surprised.
And we got Coach. And I mean, if you got this far, you heard that she wants the visibility. And we are happy to oblige because they are extremely entertaining. So I just want to thank also TJ Strickland for setting it up.
Absolutely.
Tell your friends about volleyball. Do it. No free ads. But Jake, tell your friends about volleyball.
Jake, for the adults in the room, how much were volleyball season tickets?
It's $70 was my renewal this year per seat, but I doubled the amount of seats I bought over last year. So no regrets. Woo. But fill the building. It's like 20 home games for $70.
Yeah,
one of the best deals you'll get in the entire city.
It's like 50 bucks a seat if you got kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy peasy. Thank you again to Coach Collier and TJ Strickland for setting up that interview. Thank you, Jack, for doing that interview as professionally as we like to be on this podcast, or at least as much as we like to think we are. Gentlemen, any other final notes on volleyball, their season, any of the stuff that we've talked about today?
I would like to talk about the games now and not the theoretical outcomes of these games. That's all. That's where I'm sitting now.
So close. It's so close.
I would like to be able to happily and peacefully move away from being all like, oh, all these memories, and like, we're gonna have new players that we see and new games that stand out in our minds, and that's it doesn't make the old ones less special or anything like that, but it's exciting because I mean this. I don't try and oversell teams here on the podcast. We try and call it straight. This is a team that really has a lot of potential this year, and a lot of room to grow even from what they did last year.
High floor, high ceiling. I think that about sums it up, huh?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I think that's about it for us today. Mr. Grant, you have the con. Take us home.
All right. So you guys know this if you listen regularly, and if you found us, you know where to find us. But tell your friends, rate, review wherever fine podcasts are sold. It really does mean a lot for us. Helps us get out there. So tell your friends, and if you do have comments, questions, topic ideas, you can email us at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com. You can comment on the website. That's fromtherumbleseat.com. Every podcast goes up with an article, and you can recommend, comment, and all those good things. Share that as well. And on Twitter, you can find us at FTRS blog. On the Twitter, we do man that pretty actively. So, any feedback you have and want to send us there, we are definitely open to that. And then you can find myself and Jack on Twitter personally as well. I'm at Jake Grant 98. He's at Jack Nicholas. For Akshay and Jack, this has been Scions of the Southlands volleyball preview. Thanks. Good night, and go Jackets.